All right, good evening, everybody. I'll call the Board of Selectmen's meeting for Monday, February 22nd, 2016 to order. To start, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next is weekly briefing. Do you have anybody here for weekly briefing?
As your CVAC representative, I thought a brief update. We met a couple of times since.
I hope it's brief, otherwise I'm going to ask you to get agended, quite frankly. But give me a brief update.
Okay.
Okay.
CVAC will be moving its offices to 23 White's Path very soon. It's a consequence of the county having to charge or deciding that it needs to charge for the use of rooms.
Okay.
And it's related to the financial situation and the fact that they're in consultation with the state about how much space the state is going to lease from them. The principal matter of importance is that we looked at a preview of the fiscal 17 budget for CVEC that was prepared by the Finance Committee based on there being no adder. Barnstable, there will be, the answer from Barnstable is no, and you had predicated your decision on what happened in Barnstable. So the 1 mil adder is dead. It's not beyond the realm of possibility that we might come around again and ask for a half or a quarter. But anyway, a fiscal year 17 budget with the cost pared as much as possible, still without the adder, results in a $56,000 deficit. We have not voted on that budget yet. We had a discussion in which people said they were willing to operate at a deficit for 1 year, but the Finance Committee also prepared a projection 4 years out to see how much longer we could operate given the size of the cash reserves without any additional income except that which is expected. And that was 4 years. And we had a brief discussion, and there was quite a lot of sentiment against approving operating that way for that period of time in the future. And I frankly said I couldn't vote on something like that without running it by you folks first. So be thinking about what you want the future of CVEC to be. And that becomes relevant because of a call I got today from the chairman of the Golf Commission wondering about projects that had been proposed for solar panels at the golf course, including on the roof of the new golf cart storage building that is in the capital plan for 2018. And it turns out that proposal was made in round 2, but was not taken up by any of the vendors. For what reason, I don't know yet. But there won't be a round 3 if we don't get some an increase in income to not only offset the deficit, but give us some upfront money to work with to begin projects.
Understand. Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Was that brief enough?
Yep. Anybody else weekly briefing? Dana, did you have something? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Just if folks have been trying to email us here at Town Hall or the Police Department or the Fire Department and the Community Center, we have been having email issues. It is slowly coming back online, so please bear with us. If you can't get through by email and need to contact us, definitely call. Okay. Or we still have the good old-fashioned fax machine.
Is it only in this building?
No, it's
system-wide?
System-wide.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else on weekly briefing? Public comment and announcement. Mrs. DaCosta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a citizen, I'd like to just publicly thank the Police Department and the Fire Department for their timely arrival at my home last night to help me out in a situation. Thank you.
Okay. Noted. Anybody else for public comment and announcements? Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Janelle?
Mr. Chair, I move that we, A, approve minutes from February 1st, 2016 regular session, B, approve the request by Reds to close the business for renovations from February 28th to April 1st, 2016, And C, approve and vote to sign the fiscal year 17 contract agreement between Barnstable County and the town of Harwich for the Human Services Grant Program.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Discussion? I would just say under item C, and it's not in there tonight, but I did get a call from County Commissioner Kukunis today, telling me that one of the proposals he believes in county government going forward is to, on the type of agreement we have on FY17 between the town, you know, for human services with the county, that they may be looking to include some administrative costs to help their budget situation, let's put it that way. Now, what we have in front of us today is not that, but he was just putting me on notice, or us on notice, to say, hey, it may be coming in the future as the county struggles with its budget situation, so. Okay, any other discussion? Well, hearing none, we'll put the consent agenda to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? To vote, thank you. Next is public hearings and presentations. The first one is submitting our annual town meeting articles to the Finance Committee. So we have a warrant that was prepared by the town administrator and staff that was brought to us. It's in our packet. We have not voted. Matter of fact, some of the things we're going to do under new business are vote to include items in the warrant. If you're sticking around to think they're actually going to vote support or not support of articles, that's not it tonight. It's to include them in the warrant, to say that they're actually there, because it is our warrant at some point in time. But we do need to pass it on to the Finance Committee, because they need to get going on their work, as we all know. And both on articles and the budget, you know, we have our first significant set of hearings all day Saturday, the 27th, as a joint meeting with the Finance Committee. So with that, I think I don't know if you have any questions or comments about that. We need to just pass this on as it says in the charter. So, anybody?
Mr. Chair, I move that we submit the annual town meeting articles as presented in tonight's package to the
Second.
Finance Committee.
Okay, moved and seconded to submit those articles to the Finance Committee. Discussion? Hearing now, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? To vote. Okay, can we do the same thing with the budget?
Mr. Chair, I move that we submit this draft budget to the Finance Committee.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to submit the, and I will call it draft budget because it's a work in process, quite frankly, as we go forward, to the Finance Committee. Discussion? Hearing now, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is a vote. Thank you. Old business, we have none unless somebody has something to bring up. Okay, now we want to take a group of articles, and by the way, I put these in here mainly because one of us is going to be gone for the month of March, so I decided I would get through as many of these tonight as we could, and we sort of lumped them, if you will, under these four categories. And again, it's what I'm looking for when we get done with our discussion here is just to say, okay, we are going to put these in the warrant, or have them in the warrant. It does not say we support them or don't support them. That discussion will come later. And by the way, on any of these articles, like the community preservation articles, Bob, tonight when we get to it, you know, I just expect you to give us your summary of, you know, what you guys have in there for articles. But folks that are actually the beneficiary of those articles, I expect them to come in later and have a discussion. So for instance, on the library, you know, I expect them to come some night when we put the library article on there to have a discussion about it. But for tonight, it's just to get your summary of what those things are. Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's start with zoning articles. Dave Spitz, I see.
Yes, and Jim Atkinson, the planning board chair, is here
Hiding
as
back
well.
there. Okay, Jim, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Welcome. Good.
Okay, so you want a brief summary, I understand?
Yes.
Okay. There are two of these. In preparing this, we considered the first one on height in the floodplain to be the only one, in our opinion, of real significance. So that's why that one is standalone, and then you've got three other miscellaneous ones. The flood one is important because now, with the new FEMA maps and the new base flood elevations, a number of people, when replacing a home or doing substantial work, are going to have to build to the new base flood elevation. Our height definition refers to existing grade. You take the low point, the high point. So if your existing grade, for example, in some of these low areas is 8, and the base flood elevation is 12, which is the case in many of the AE flood zones, then you have to measure the height of your building under current zoning from the 8. And we allow a 30-foot height, so it's essentially you're going to have a 26-foot building. So what this does is say you measure it from the base flood elevation. So you're now allowed to figure it from the 12 rather than from the 8. We think that way homes in the floodplain, they have to build up. So they will not have any taller building. Yes, it will be a little higher than some of the other existing homes. And over time, those will be adjusted as well. And environmentally, we think that people should be moving up out of the floodplain, and we don't want to discourage them from doing that.
Okay, so you're just reacting to what the new floodplain looks like?
Yes. And we base this on work done already in Dennis, Sandwich, and Situate. Other communities may be different.
Okay. Have you had a public hearing on this one yet?
The public hearing is the end of March
Okay.
on all of these. Okay, I'll keep going.
And by the way, what I want to do with the board here, if it's okay with you, we'll take each group, and then once we're done hearing the presentation, we can vote to include them in the warrant. Okay?
Okay, the second one are 3 miscellaneous items. The one that I thought would be least controversial of all is the one you guys picked on last time, but Angela and I go way back, so I should have expected nothing less. In any case, what I did, Angela, I did send you an email after the fact. The construction sign is trying to put back in almost word for word, except for the substitution of a word that says advertising. We've changed that word. But it is for construction projects, and it is to allow not a large sign, an 8-square-foot sign. It's a little bit different than if you're a roofer or something putting your sign out in front. There was a concern about, is this going to open the door for private companies to put signs up at will? And in my email, I pointed out that in the bylaw, we already have this language. Any business wishing to place a sign on property other than its own shall obtain written permission from the property owner where the sign will be posted. So I hope that will help. Okay, so I'm going to move on, but I can certainly backtrack to any of these. The next one...
Let me just ask the question. On this one, I think you told us before you're having a public hearing. On what date? Same date?
The 4th Tuesday in March for all of these items.
All of them, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't have my calendar.
Thank you. It's okay.
Two-family dwellings, we believe, is an oversight, which is that you are allowed by special permit to do two-family dwellings in our commercial districts, in this case the CH1 district, but yet in a couple of key places the bylaw is silent. So we have the unusual situation where the required lot area for any other permitted use in the CH1 district is 20,000. It's half an acre. That makes sense for our commercial. But this town has chosen throughout town to go to 40,000 square foot minimum for single family. Without the line on duplexes, the strange situation that we are now in is that you need 40,000 square feet for a single family and only 20,000 for a duplex. So this fixes that. I've already had one complaint about that, saying that we should be going in the opposite direction, and actually some on the planning board and myself feel that we should be considering greater residential density in the village areas and certain others. However, we are not touching that one right now. There is a Route 28 zoning effort going on, and stay tuned for that one. But that is not this. This is a cleanup item. Similarly on cleanup is guest houses. We've spent a lot of time over the last, I'd say I've been here almost 7 years, but I'll say the last 5 years, on accessory apartments. There are a lot of people who have guest houses, but they're not guest houses according to our definition. Our definition is a building in which living space is let for compensation to 4 or fewer persons. Now we have that covered with other things: lodging house, hotel, motel, inn, bed and breakfast. Those are the more rental situations that would continue to be allowed. But a guest house in Harwich is an accessory residential building. If it's with a bedroom, it's treated one way. If it's without a bedroom, it's treated another. That's how we've been applying it. A few people recently said, we want a guest house. okay, but if you then read the definition of the guest house, it's not just a second place where your family comes. It's only a rental situation. We looked at various ways to change the definition and decide, you know, we don't need this category at all. So the proposal is to take guest houses out of there, to rely on remaining lodging house, hotel, motel, inn, bed and breakfast for one category, and accessory apartments and accessory bedrooms for other situations. This one can get a little confusing. I'm a little worried about it at town meeting. We'll try to figure out a good way to explain it, but that's the summary.
I'm already confused.
How much time do you want to
worded
go
just
into it?
Just a little, just the very end where you said, getting rid of guest house altogether. So what are you replacing it with?
Well, we think that it's not needed because if you want to do a rental situation, you can do an inn, a motel, a bed and breakfast. Those are all still there.
But if you wanted your
And
family,
a lodging house.
if you wanted an in-law apartment or something like that,
Right.
what is, that used to be under guest house? Oh, it didn't.
Not really, but what we've
Oh.
done is, we've recognized that in Harwich, there's a lot of people who want to have a second residential structure. One of the things we did 5 years ago was say, you can have an accessory apartment either attached to the house, or what we added was it can be detached. You can have a separate residential structure. But it's got to be accessory in the fact that it can be no more than 900 square feet. And you can't have both, and an owner has to live either in the large one or the small one. So if you're an aging person who wants to stay in a smaller unit and rent out the larger one or have another family member, this allows you a second residential unit of limited size on the property.
Okay.
So we're trying to allow that sort of thing. But as far as two principal residential structures, which we believe a guest house is what some people want to do, that can be grandfathered, but you can't do a new one. You can do a smaller accessory apartment, and under the rental situation, you can do these others, the lodging house and so forth.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Thanks. That was good.
Okay, would you make sure you give us the results of the, or give us some feedback after the public hearing?
Yes.
Certainly. Okay. Okay, that's
Thank
all
you.
for zoning. I could have a motion to include the zoning articles in the warrant.
Mr. Chair, I think it's articles, I move that we include articles, it looks like
You can just call
48
them
and
the zoning
49.
articles.
Yeah, they're not numbered in our
Yeah.
packet,
I
but
know
it's, well, because there are a bunch of articles. So Article 48, which is building structure height, and Article 49, which is striking out language proposed zoning bylaw amendments, Article 49 in the warrant.
Second.
Okay, moving second to include those two zoning articles in the warrant. Discussion? Does not mean we support them or don't support them, it just means that we're giving them the okay to put in the warrant. Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Community Preservation Committee articles. Bob, you have a bunch.
Yes, good evening. Bob McCready, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. And I'm going to, I guess I'll try to use the summary that I put in your
Yes,
packet.
no, that'd be good.
Work
Yep,
from?
Yep. As I say, we're gonna bring these back, you know, with the proponents of each one of these, and we'll have a discussion or some discussions in the following weeks to get into the details, if you will.
The first one is the Land Bank Debt Service. This is the payment of the continuing debt service on land bank debt that existed at the time that the town adopted the Community Preservation Act. There are, I think, roughly about 5 years left on that debt. It's essentially a required payment, for all intents and purposes, I think, anyway. But this is the first year that we're submitting it as a separate article. This was discussed during the CPC meetings and with the town administrator, and I think both the town and the committee believe that having it as a separate article is more transparent for the community to be able to see this fairly large amount of Community Preservation Act funds being used every year. It's about, this year, as far as I know, the number I was originally given was $633,000. The second one here is work on the Chase Library fireplace hearth. There's recurring history of Chase Library restoration, preservation articles coming through Community Preservation Committee. This is probably the fourth or fifth. They have been historically, I think all of them have on a regular basis been supported by the committee. They tend to be small articles. This is for about $3,000. The hearth there is collapsing in back, and this is to do restoration work to put it back in reasonable condition. The next one is the Harwich Historical Society artifacts. The application actually was for 3 items. The 2 items that the committee decided to support as fitting in our definition of historical preservation were a cannon, which seems to be mentioned already in the Chronicle, I guess, that has, I think from the report that we were given, quite a colorful history in town, actually, of being even, once it got here, of being used for a variety of things in town before currently being trying to be put in a position of restoration, getting a plaque, getting a stand, getting some work done, and being in a position at the library over at Brooks Museum to be displayed.
But not that we can use it and fire it once in a while.
It was for quite,
No, it was,
as I understand, for quite a few years it was on a recurring basis, and there were problems that took place, I guess, that got to its retirement.
Stand back.
And the other is a millstone. I think a lot of people here have probably been familiar with the millstone that I believe resides outside of Brooks Park, similar kind of restoration and put in a position of display for the town. That's why, per your report, however, that the amount that we finally approved is less than the original application, because there was a third item which we did not bring forward.
Okay.
The appearance of the Albro House and accessory modifications. The application is for related particularly to the accessibility, where the application is take down the ramp that currently is there and put together. I think people are probably familiar with the fact that the back door was taken down and the garage were taken down some time ago. This is to build a new entryway at the back door, including a ramp approaching the back door, and then to make modification to 4 doors leading in from the back to provide for disabled access, and do some a little additional work on the Albro House. Okay. Let's see. The Harwich Historical Property Inventory. There was an article through CPC now probably 5 or 6 years ago that was originally voted to for about, I think, $25,000 at the time to start work on inventorying historical properties in town. That work was delayed for some time and has really just recently been completed. This is to now carry on the work that's been done so far, and with regard to certain specific properties having additional work done on them, and certain work in general on the inventory to get qualification and listings in some of the historical information in the state. We thought originally, and continue to think, that getting a robust inventory of the the old properties, I think this dwells on the definition of using 99 years or older, getting a good inventory of those properties for the town as being an important thing to have.
Okay.
West Harwich Schoolhouse preservation. I think there's been ongoing conversation over quite a few years about the West Harwich Schoolhouse. I guess the last of, I think, the town-owned original, original early low-level schoolhouses, not the below the high school level. This, I think, is the last one left, and people may be familiar with it off Route 28 in West Harwich. There's been, again, a lot of conversation over the years. I think we believe, anyway, it's worth the application that came forward between the town and a group of citizens to try and they've put a lot of work in to try and put together a workable and reasonably cost-effective budget to try and get exterior and internal work done to try and be able to preserve that building, which is now sat vacant and deteriorating for an extensive period of time.
Okay.
Restoration and preservation of burial crypts. This comes, we again have some recurring articles that are brought forth by the Cemetery Commission to do various restoration and preservation work on parts of the variety of cemeteries around town. This concentrates on 4 specific crypts that, amongst other things, have become problematic for people visiting the cemeteries. There's a tendency for people to walk, crawl, play, whatever, on top of some of these tombs, crypts, holding crypts, and they have reached a state, in the case of some of them, where they may be an actual danger to people in the cemeteries. And this is to put in the effort on those 4 tombs to get them back in a particularly safe and reasonable condition going forward.
Okay, thank you.
South Harwich Meeting House. The South Harwich Meeting House restoration has been ongoing now for, again, a number of years, 5 or 6 anyway, that's been funded by CPC applications. This is 4th or 5th application probably, and hopefully, I think everyone is hoping this is the last and piece of getting the building completely restored and ready to start having events in the building. That certainly is what the South Harwich Meeting House group that has been running this wants to represent. This is for $100,000, and hopefully between that and the funds that they have left will finally get us to the goal line here, which people have been very hopeful for.
Okay.
White House field fencing. This actually is the second year. We turned this one down last year, but this year I think there was enough additional work by the rec department coming and convincing folks that the fence around the White House field, the one that circles the field, has gotten to a condition that needs to be replaced, and people were sufficiently convinced that it met our recreation standards that it was voted to spend the money to get that fence replaced this year.
So, Bob, can I just ask, is that replace going to happen after the Cape League season?
I don't know the timing.
Okay. The funds wouldn't be available until July 1st, so.
Right.
It's kind of
And the rec department is certainly used to the funding cycle for CPC articles.
Okay.
Brooks Park expansion, Phase 3, and it's Phase 3 clearly because there's been Phase 1 and Phase 2, both funded by CPC money previously. That included in those previous phases study work on the design of the long-term various work being done at Brooks Park. One of the things, this also was brought forth last year and turned down last year, asking the rec department to go back and spend more time getting public input on the general public input on the idea of doing the items that are included in this particular article, which includes resurfacing tennis courts and adding half a basketball court and rebuilding a new version of the tennis practice board and some tee-based parking. That I think we weren't convinced that given that some of that impacts doing some additional recreation additions to the park. There's a pavilion, I think, that's being built, and an overall chart of the longer term, any additional long-term work over there. We were a little concerned that previously that the focus of public input had been on people using the facilities and perhaps not getting enough input from the general public, as Brooks Park is really the primary maintained park in the town. And they put a lot of time and effort and did a survey and really tried to respond to that request last year, and we're responding by supporting them this year. Purchase of property. This is property at the headwaters of Muddy Creek. I think that the selectmen, I think, have talked about this on perhaps a variety of occasions. This is 17 acres that the article involves a combination with Harwich Conservation Trust, sharing funding and essentially sharing the conditions and responsibilities and that end up getting specified in the article as to who's really buying what and who's doing what. But it's a partnership with the Conservation Trust to buy that property and be able to maintain it in given the additional work that's being done on Muddy Creek and keeping the condition of that whole area and improving the area from an open space standpoint. We're contributing. CPC is voted to contribute $500,000 to this overall project.
This is $800,000.
Well, the 300 part, the article, and that's where this the wording can get funky. It's an $800,000 article. $300,000 is supposed to come from Harwich Conservation Trust, and the article is contingent on essentially getting the rest of that money.
Okay, so the total is 800.
The total is 800 for the article. That's right. But again, CPC only voted 500 of it. Brooks Free Library restoration. There was again a topic that there's been previous articles and money, some money spent over past years on work done on the older parts of the Brooks Free Library. There was considerable talk this year. Some of the members here, the board, may have been at the last summer's presentation by the consultant that was hired to do work on this. So there was a lot of effort spent by the Brooks Library trustees in trying to put together a package, and lots of discussion between the Brooks Library folks and CPC over the components and the price of the package. And originally, the committee did not support the article. But again, I think there was additional effort put in by a lot of people, and including kind of revisiting what might be an acceptable amount and scope of the project to the committee. And it was brought back for reconsideration, passed, and a motion was made for $540,000 rather than $800,000, and to do work strictly on the buildings, and that was in line with the specifications of the application, and that article did pass. Repeal of Article 42. This is only in here from 2007. This is in here because this is a specific amount of money related to a part of that article that related to work on the windows in the West Harwich School. And that work is supposed to be getting done by the new West Harwich School article, so we thought it made sense to bring the money that was still sitting unused from the old article back into CPC funds. And the last mention in your summary is the fact that there is a recurring required article by the Act to do a allocation of 10% of the new funds each year into 3 sub-funds for historic, open space, and affordable housing. And we have that article included also this year. Those are the articles that we're putting forth.
You have enough of them.
I believe, I only got a brief look at the draft warrant, and I believe there's an article in there that is under CPC that is not being put forth at this time for annual town meeting by the committee, and that is
That's what
related to
Charlene's-
tax title.
Maybe that's what Charlene's after.
Well, but there's also the one for the bicycle crossing on Queen Anne. You missed that one.
Yeah, the
I just miss it?
signalization.
Number 10.
I'm sorry, did I just miss it?
Yeah, you skipped over.
I blew right through it. You're right, number 10, Queen Anne Road Bike Trail Crossing Lights. Again, this is the third one that we have done, has been brought to us separately, and consistent with the other two, we believe that it is an additional assistance to the popularity of the bike trail in town, and so have voted to support adding those safety lights at the Queen Anne Road crossing.
Okay, and what's the other one? Who's got another one that's in
Article
here?
27.
What does it say?
It says fund administrative costs for the acquisition of tax title properties.
Is that one that you did not bring forward?
We did not bring forth. We have not voted that. We may vote. We may in fact find wording that we vote to support for a special town meeting, but the CPC has not voted that article and did not add it to the listing of articles we submitted.
Okay, did that originate in your committee, by the way?
It did.
Okay,
And we did ask town council for some advice on wording, so it may have somewhere got into the pile and got into the draft, but it has not been voted on by CPC.
okay, Charlene, so let's just hold that at the moment. Okay. All right, so at this point, since I think we have all your articles now,
Okay?
I would entertain a motion to include the CPC articles in the warrant.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we include the CPC articles numbering from 28 to 42 in the warrant.
Second.
And we'll second to include the CPC article, that's all of them, right? CPC article.
Excluding this fund administrative cost for tax property.
Discussion? Hang on a second, go ahead, Michael.
The West Harwich School, it says sponsored by administration and planning. I believe that was brought forward by a private person, and they applied. I know there's some questions at CPC. Is this a town? Who's applying for the West Harwich School? And is that going to change?
We're reporting it as being the town.
So you said town administrator came to you with the package, I guess is the way I would describe it.
It was I think the planning, the David Spitz, I believe, and the citizen group.
It's a hybrid.
It's a hybrid.
A collaborative effort. In order to go for grant money that's available through another funding source, the town had to be the applicant.
Okay.
So that's our understanding, is that the town is the sponsor.
Okay, David, do you have some light to shed on that?
Only partially.
Okay.
This originated by the citizens group. It was picked up by the administration, I believe, in the feeling that the town should control this project. So the two departments that administration brought into this were engineering and planning. I've been glad to support this and will continue to do so. As far as where it came from a citizens group. The town administration said for it to go forward, it should come under the sponsorship of administration.
Yeah, the complication is we have, we issued an RFI for the use of the building or whatever, and got one response. We haven't acted on, I guess we're waiting for your license agreement at some point here. But we haven't acted on that yet. Just
Right.
As a point of clarification.
I think that's a side part of it.
Yeah.
But that's one of the details that needs to be completed for this to go forward. The most important is to get the funding approved by the town.
Hey, Linda, did you have any on that? Michael, you did? Go ahead.
I would ask if this is something we should be voting to put in the warrant. This came to us as a presentation from a community group, and now it seems as it's a town-sponsored article, and I'm not sure that that's appropriate. or if it now just goes before and the argument is made on town meeting floor.
For me, the argument's made on town meeting floor, but
I think we have an opportunity next month to discuss whether we want to support it.
yeah, that's different. The only question before you tonight is, do you include it in the warrant?
Included in the warrant.
That's all. Did you have something on this? Or-
I just had a question on this article, and that is, it doesn't say anything about being phased or anything like that. Is this a one-time thing, or is this a phased 1 of 3 or 2 of 3, or? It's the first one we've had on this, and usually they have phases to them. And I just wonder if that could be mentioned in the article, whether this is phased or whether it's just a one-time 200,000 and that's it.
David, do you have some information on that?
The citizens group put together an estimate of, to do the entire building, they estimated $400,000. They worked extensively with the town engineer to come up with that number. They applied for half of that to CPC, and the other half, I helped them submit a cultural facilities grant application for Massachusetts. I'm told that we will hear the results of that this spring.
Okay,
So that right now, it's not planned as needing a phase 2, but
okay, so your understanding of it is the way if success happens, let's just call it that way, with whatever applications are in there, that those funds would be sufficient to get this work done.
if it's just the 200,000, the citizens group has represented that it can get the work done to do the basics of what they want to do. I can't speak any more to it than that.
No, what I'm saying, I guess you misunderstand me. Between the grant application, I'll just call it that, and this application, the sum of those two entities, those two funds, would get this project completed. And the
That's-
estimate of the town
yes,
engineer, I guess, is
yes.
the way to describe it, right?
Yes.
The community group has also represented that this value is assuming a variety of assistance by other groups at other pricing.
I know they're
But was also represented, CPC is taking this as not being a phased project, as being a one-time project.
Okay. I understand. Dana?
The reason I asked is because the original town engineer estimate was $1.1 million, and I didn't know if things are being taken out or not being done, or what.
I think in the end, it's a different use of the building is part of the answer. Part of the answer.
The 1.1 was definitely looked at. One of the basic things is for this type of use for the boat building museum, it's not going to be a finished interior. So that doesn't make up for $700,000 difference. But the combination of, they're seeking assistance from various sources in doing the work. And, you know, the estimate was definitely $400,000 for the entire
Yeah,
project.
I understand. Yeah, thank you. All right, where is it? I have a motion. Okay, I have a motion. All right, so a second. All right, further discussion on the motion. The motion is include the CPC articles. Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It's a vote. Thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to bylaw and charter amendment articles. Oh, Mr. Howell, how are you? You were
Very
not
well,
here.
Mr. Chair.
I don't think you were here at the beginning when we started this, but tonight we're not
Did
voting.
you say something bad about me, or?
What?
Yes, he did.
No. I just want to be clear. Tonight, we're not voting to support or not support articles. We're voting to include articles in the warrant. So, you know, it's a little bit different discussion. We'll have you, we'll go through these. We want you to go through them. At some point in time, we'll have you back to get into maybe some more detailed discussion if it's needed in some of these articles. Okay?
Sure.
So you run us through them?
I will. I do want to, Mr. Chair, I do want to say one thing about the articles, because I pulled up a draft of the warrant yesterday to look at how they were formatted. There's that one omnibus article that has, that we pretty much tracked, the Koppelman and Page memo, and tried to clarify certain sections of the charter. There's also one that calls for the possibility of the Board of Selectmen appointing alternates to different boards. I wrote that after a conversation with our liaison, Mr. Lamontia, that there was some discussion on the Board of Selectmen that you wish to have that authority, but it's showing up here as at the request of the bylaw committee. The committee itself has taken no position on it. We haven't voted on it. I haven't even seen it, other than
I
me
think-
writing the language so that you had a placeholder there
I
for
would
it.
say it's definitely the consensus of this board, and we have discussed it, that having the ability to appoint alternates would be an advantageous thing for the sake of keeping government moving and getting people involved in government. So if we need to say this is sponsored or whatever by the Board of Selectmen, I have no problem with that, and I think,
No.
I think this team would do that, so.
Okay, I just thought I'd take it out of
That's
order
okay.
because.
Yep, it only came up recently, so,
Sure.
relatively recently.
And the one caveat I do have in that, and I tried to write language that would address that concern, is that you have regulatory bodies, Conservation Commission, Board of Health, whatever. They're governed by Mass General Law. And so when I did this, as I told Angelo, I hadn't had the opportunity to ferret out I'm not willing to go that sleepless, where I read every MGL that pertains to every regulatory board. There are some constraints. I know in the planning board, for instance, an alternate can't do certain things, special permits, they're constrained. I am not certain about all the other vagaries for the other boards, so I wrote this in a manner that allowed you to do it to the extent permissible under law, so that it would be the broadest thing possible for you.
Quite frankly, the one that comes, I think, to the surface quickly is the Golf Commission, if you will. And, for whatever reason, a number of the members seem to go, or some members go south for a good part of the winter. And although we allow folks to call in and that kind of thing, as Angela's gonna find out here in the month of March, it's not that convenient to do it. I mean, it's just, it's a little bit awkward.
As I recall, that's been a problem for many, many,
Well, no, it
many
has been,
years.
So, anyhow, proceed.
All right, going back to the omnibus article. The manner in which it's done, as we've discussed for many months now, is that it's going to go to town meeting and then to town election subsequent to that. So when I got it back from Koppelman and Page, we had to rework it somewhat. There were some bad references and some typos. And beyond that, my committee pointed out that if you're going to be sitting in the audience for a town meeting, it really should be walking through sequentially in the warrant so that people aren't flipping the pages back and forth in the charter to find subsections. So that's where it's at right now. First section is just essentially a clarification, a practice that you are engaging in anyway. There's no training wheel appointments. People get appointed for full terms or for unexpired portions of terms, so there is no language currently. We just thought we'd put it in there. A number of these have to do with Koppelman and Page recommendations and the Board of Selectmen, which we're not in a position to decide what you will or won't agree to, but they're clarifications. But for instance, the power of the town administrator on Section 2, amending Chapter 4. Contractual authorities. I started out life as a contracting officer. I mean, there's whether or not, and I know the state law calls for the chief procurement officials to be the Board of Selectmen, so it's up to you what you want to delegate. It puts it in the position where you can delegate it, should you desire, but the parameters of that are still up to you folks. Some of this was a clarification because when the charter was rewritten to afford for the new Monomoy School District, there were references that were not taken out in the past. There were still some hanging references to the school committee, so those are just housekeeping things. As far as amending Section 4 by adding a new subsection 4-4-3, I would assume you don't want any more direct reports than you already have, and this is a clarification that it's a department head, and it would pretty much fall within the same category that all other department heads fall under in the charter. If the town administrator appoints somebody and three of you dispute that, then it's back to the beginning again, because you still retain that authority. We discussed this the last time I was in. You folks have been referring to the Highways and Maintenance Department as the Department of Public Works for a long time now, so this is just something that acknowledges a fact, because it functions as a Public Works Department, so we're changing its name. Fire Department was what we had promised you in the fall that we would bring forward. And again, the final one, item 4, is simply a deletion of the school committee. We already covered the other article pertaining to appointments authority. Now, we consider, the reason that it's sitting there on its own and rather not in here, because that's a substantive change of operation, where you're doing something differently than you're doing now, as opposed to just a housekeeping thought. It's going to be up to you what you want to do, but there's a reason for why they were done separately, and they were submitted to make sure that they got into the main body of the annual town meeting warrant. We've taken no position whatsoever on Mr. Hart's Waterways article. We do have a public hearing that we just put the ad, submitted it today for March 15th, so that we could hold the first public hearing relating to these and to that Waterways article. And pretty much that's where we're at.
You seen topics with that? Any real concern? I know your committee hasn't taken it up yet.
I don't see any particular impediment there. I mean, ultimately, it recognizes that there are structures out there that they're kind of orphans, that there's nobody who's been given the delegated authority to control. So we haven't taken a position, so I can't really speak for the committee, but it doesn't seem to be all that controversial.
Okay.
And we have, as I assured you in the early fall, taken a position from the committee that if somebody comes in with a warrant article, the first thing we ask is this your personal article, or is this by vote of your committee? And if it is by vote of your committee, we need to see the vote. So he has a Waterways Commission vote for that article.
Okay. Have you had a public hearing on the proposed changes, or are you going to?
March 15th.
March 15th, okay. All right.
We'll be next door.
Maybe need a bigger room? No.
The small hearing room.
Okay, so that's it, right? Yep, good job, by the way. I know it was a tenuous task, if you will, and we're glad you get started early,
Okay.
which is good. Okay,
Thank you.
Question.
oh, you can't go away so quickly. And by the way, Anita's out there too, right? Dana, you're like
She
the
is.
blocking, you're like the blocking guy there. Okay, all right. Maybe
I
she
can't
did.
believe 2 of the other members were willing to forego the excitement of being here tonight, but
It is pretty exciting, isn't it?
Hi. Under the proposed amendments, the omnibus, as you're calling it, the one that is the fire department, section 551, and you're striking fire department who shall be, a fire chief who shall be appointed by the Board of Selectmen, and you're who's going to, within the charter, appoint the fire chief?
you guys still. And
Huh?
just to clarify this, because this is one of those I'm going to duck and let the shot go to the right person. This is one of those where Koppelman and Page wrote that, and I had to rewrite sections for clarity, but I didn't change the substance. That's the language that John Giorgio provided. I kind of wondered myself why they would delete that section, because ultimately, even if it's organized under state law as a strong chief, you still appoint the chief.
Somebody's got to appoint the chief.
The first sentence looks like it should
The first
stay.
sentence looks like,
Unless it's stated somewhere else.
unless it's stated somewhere else, which, that's why I'm asking the question, is it stated somewhere else that
I'm
the Board of
assuming that
Selectmen-
John had hung his hat on the fact that MGL calls for the appointment by the senior appointing authorities, which
You shaking your head on that one? Did you going like this? Or is that Dana? I can't. That's what I thought, yeah. But again, this is one of these, you almost have to read the whole thing together, you know?
Yeah, if it had been me writing it from scratch, it would have just been an augmentation instead of a
It may be a
deletion.
duplication, but at least it says,
Yeah.
you know, so.
What I would request is we usually put explanations, because I understand that it's somewhere. We usually put explanations into the warrant of each article if there's any explanatory words. and I'm assuming you guys are gonna write that, could you put something like that in there, that even though we're deleting this, it's really in section, 22.7 or whatever, just so that people understand that the fire chief is still being appointed by somebody? 'Cause
Sure.
I agree with you, it's odd to just take it completely out.
I agree, and I sense a new homework assignment coming out of this, but
Oh,
Well, I
thank
think-
you so
I-
much.
But I do think we should circle back with Coleman and Page. I think we should do that.
yeah,
It is-
I don't disagree. But as I said, I mean, we did that originally, and it came in, and it was, I mean, there were a couple of references that were even the wrong subsection, so
You dealing with John Giorgio on this?
I
trust?
did.
Okay, so will you do me a favor? Just do us a favor, and that is circle back with him and tell him the selectmen are confused by this and think that, quite frankly, I assume everybody does, it would be appropriate to leave that sentence in.
I not only agree, but I didn't see how that really diluted anything that came after it that he's writing.
We have a concern, so.
Sure.
I think just to add there, the document's a big document, and this would make it easier for somebody who wanted to learn something about the fire department, getting all the information they needed right here, rather than having to go through 28 other pages.
That's how I view it, and I think it's a little unreasonable to ask a citizen to sit there and memorize it and flip back and forth and try to find sections. But I'm in agreement. I mean, I'll ask him. I just submitted it pretty much as written in that section.
I understand.
If you're gonna leave the sentence in, then you don't need this amendment at all.
Yes, we do.
Well, yes, I think you do, 'cause I think
You missed one of my favorite meetings.
Strong chief.
it's the whole issue
Yeah,
of the
we've been through
strong
this
fire
on
chief.
treat, yes, just before you got here.
So
I
is that
believe.
new language?
The
Yes.
second section is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a
Is
big
that clear?
discussion last
Yeah.
June or something, right?
It's not bolded, that's why it's not clear to me that it's
Okay,
what's new language and what's deleted
yep,
language.
yep, I understand.
I not only agree with you there, but in terms of the deletion, there was an agreement here when he wrote the initial thing that the new text would be underlined, and it wasn't. So honestly, that I didn't touch.
When we get to these and have a detailed discussion and actually vote on these, we'll have John come in, you guys come in, whatever, and we'll have a nice discussion.
And before that, I will get in touch
Yeah,
with
yeah,
him.
yeah, absolutely.
Because I think it's reasonable to just leave the first section alone and just underline the second section as new text.
I think you hear our concern.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion on the bylaw and charter amendment articles?
Mr. Chair, I move inclusion in the warrant of Article 50, the proposed amendments, and Article 51, amend the Home Rule Charter for Chapter 3, Section 6.
It's all of
Second.
them, right? Okay. Did you second, Angela?
Yes, I did.
Okay, moved and seconded to include those charter amendments in the, and bylaw amendments in the warrant. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? To vote, thank you.
So 52 is not gonna be included.
I think I heard that there hadn't been a, Don, on 52, the amend the Home Rule Charter on the Waterways Committee, do you want to include that in the charter? I think I heard you say that y'all hadn't voted on it, or?
We haven't held a hearing on it, we don't have a position on it, but by the same token, it's legitimately being sponsored by a town committee. And the merits of that, I mean, I warned Matt from the get-go that if this wasn't submitted by petition, that it really boils down to whether the selectmen agree to that modification and that you hold the authority to yank something or leave something in the warrant.
Yeah, I think.
So we don't have a voted position,
Yeah, I
but
think
don't view that as a
Understand.
negative.
I think at the moment it clarifies some things, and if we decide later on we want to pull it out, we could.
Well, I know for me, I don't think it's going to clarify it to the public, because it doesn't have, whatever section 14.2 is, I don't know what we're adding water-dependent structure to.
Okay.
Unless, I mean, thinking as a person at town meeting, you now have to drag out the charter and see what
They would have to put it in the.
714.2,
They would
there's,
have to put it in the explanation.
yeah, I think they'd have to make sure that it's in the explanation that this is why it's being added, or what the piece is, because I don't know what it's adding to. Speaking as a person at town meeting.
But having said that, we were on the eve of having a rerun of last year where this didn't get in at all, so I kind of encouraged him to get it there before noon so that at least this discussion could happen and you could have that ongoing discussion.
All right, then, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we include Article 52, amend Harwich Home Rule Charter, Chapter 7, Section 714-2.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to include that article. Discussion.
Just a comment. One of the problems that we have in town is when dock structures break down and are falling apart and drifting into other parts of the channel and being difficult, as we had in Saquatucket Harbor for a while. There's no one that has control over it. So it's something that's important from that standpoint.
Danny, did you have a comment or question?
Just a question. I read it quickly, but I thought Matt's memo said that they didn't submit those on time. Were those submitted on time?
They were
Okay, so that was last.
Yeah, they missed it last year.
Okay.
The boat left, let's put it that way. Okay, the boat set sail, I don't know, left the harbor, left the dock, whatever.
Sank.
And now it's back, but it almost didn't get here this time, so I mean, here we are, so.
Angela, the only reason I was bringing up, I didn't I
no,
think
I
that as a
understand.
person
You need-
reading
we
this,
need a sentence
we
in
need
here.
something in here that explains
Absolutely.
why that's there.
It
Absolutely.
sounds like it's a structure that drinks water.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, or it depends on being in the water. Okay,
I do have one question.
Yep.
In Mr. Hart's memo, he also had another proposed amendment, which is not on the list and which is not in the draft warrant, relative to a harbor master's department, which is not in the charter now, and I don't know if that's why this memo is in here, to see
know.
if things should be
Don.
included.
Yeah, Matt had delivered that in the entire package. Chris Clark and I spoke about it the morning of the deadline for the warrant closing. That was not voted on by any committee. It was Matt Hart Citizen who submitted it. My recommendation, just based on the charter and how the warrant works, was to make you aware of it and that he had met the deadline for it. But if it's up to you whether you want to put it in or not. It's not a town entity. It's pitching it.
understand.
But it was there in time.
Okay, let's deal with this one additional article, because we have a motion and a second, okay? So it's moved and seconded to include the article, what number was it, I'm sorry?
52.
52 into the warrant. Discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll put that to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's a vote. Now, does someone want to talk about these other comments that Matt made, or submissions Matt made? Angela, did you have a comment on that?
Well, I think the one in which we mentioned the fact that we have a waterways or harbor department is just makes it parallel to the other committees that we show in our charter. It was kind of interesting that neither the harbor master nor the fact that we have harbors was in our original charter. I think it was just left out by accident.
Well, the charter is a living document, as, you know, these folks know. We all know that, you know, it has additions and deletions and modifications over time, and that's what it's all about. You can't get everything right all the time, and things do adapt, you know, as time goes on. Things change, so.
Especially when you look now at the cost and the money generated by that unit.
I know, but it should be, I think, and I think, Don, you're absolutely correct. It should be brought forward by a committee or a board or something to make the recommendations, I think.
If I could make one comment about it.
Sure.
If it's included the way it was originally written, while it does recognize the existence of something that's not there right now, it also calls for, it did call for a difference mechanism for appointing the harbor master. And to that extent, we felt strongly that what we had submitted, and so did Copeland and Page and the town administrator, was the way you'd want to do that, because ultimately, pretty much, you don't really want any committee to be in the business of employee management. So the appointment authority should remain, irrespective of whether this is adopted or not, it should remain that they're the department head, and you folks have the right to veto the appointment, that it's made by some line authority, so there's some supervisory thread there.
Sure, let me ask you a question. What's the deadline for the special?
It's like March 21st.
It's in the packet.
I think it's in the packet. It's like March 21st.
Is there any opportunity for you to get together with Matt, your committee get together with Matt and see if you can make some sense of this?
Yep.
Actually, that's
Sure.
Possibility, I mean, it's a possibility,
Okay.
Oh,
I think.
yeah, the special town meeting opens on the 14th, and it basically closes that Friday.
Usually.
I'm not sure, I'm not up on all the deadlines for
We
you
vote
guys
on
yet.
Monday the 21st, so it would have to be Friday, right?
Yep.
I would just think that this is a very simple statement going into a document to make it more consistent. I wouldn't want to change who appoints the harbor master or anything like that, but we certainly can do that right now and have it in the document and have it consistent with the other things that are there. It doesn't have to be presented by a committee. I mean, if we just had to say exactly where it is, a harbor master department shall be established under a harbor master who shall be appointed by the town administrator, it's consistent with what you basically have for every other committee. And I think, why not?
Well, to Angelo's point, I don't want to create or associate a stigma with a citizen coming forward with an article, because that's perfectly acceptable in the town meeting form of government. But our interest was clarity, so that everybody would know up front that, okay, Joe is member of this committee, but this is Joe himself who's submitting it, not the committee. And that's where this one fell. This is not sponsored by the Waterways. There is no vote to it, but it was properly submitted.
Understand, Linda?
Angela, I would feel more comfortable if the bylaw charter committee went back and talked to Waterways and Matt and find out if they are supporting it, how it should be written, and whether or not it should say, make that change of appointed by the Board of Selectmen as opposed to appointed by the town administrator, subject to the approval of the Board of Selectmen. I'd
could
feel more
remain
comfortable with that.
It could remain silent, because the other one that
Sure
we've
could.
submitted already clarifies that appointment
Yeah,
authority.
so it could, I would feel more comfortable personally to have it go back and just end up in the special if it has to.
Well, we also, I think, made a considerable effort this year to get you guys going early, get things clarified as far as what the objectives were early. And you guys have done a good job working through these things, working with town council, et cetera. I want them to complete the process, quite frankly. And I think the process is, as long as there's a mechanism to do it, have your committee meet with Waterways, I just call it that, whether it's Matt Hart, Waterways, whatever, and see if something comes out of this, and if it does, we could pop it in the special. I think.
Be happy to do it.
I'd be more comfortable with that.
Okay with that?
Sure, be happy to.
Yeah, I just don't want to make a mistake here, that's all, you know?
No, I not only agree with you, but last year, it was just horrible, because this thing was floating around and for some reason did not make it into that warrant. And to that extent, I wanted to make sure you saw it. So if there's something that you had as a
We have
misgiving.
time to deal with it, we have a mechanism to deal with it, so let's do that and see what the recommendation is coming back, okay?
Sure.
Everybody good with that?
Good with that.
Okay. All right, that's all for that one, thank you very much. Then the customary articles. These are really tough.
Mr. Chairman,
Dana, how are you?
there was one other one that Matt Hart submitted on the Finance Committee, changing the voting authority.
Yep.
I didn't know if you were going to take that up tonight or not, but
I took
it
all
was-
his comments as being what you guys just decided to consider these
did you
under.
consider that one as well, that
special.
should go back to charter review?
I want to hear from Don on this one.
Yeah, this was a Solomon-esque moment. Matt had written that, to clarify that, in his mind, that they couldn't double dip by being appointed to even the capital
Capital
outlay, yeah. We had another interested party, former Finance Committee member, who was trying to pitch that Finance Committee members could belong to all committees, to change the charter in that way. Well,
Said former.
the point is that we basically came down on the side of neutrality. Is that, why don't we just leave this the way it is? Because if you open it up that way, there may be competing articles for one to allow them to do everything and one to allow them to do nothing.
Okay. So you at least, you did consider it.
We did, but as I said, it became confusing when there were advocates to go in both directions, to give them more or give them less. And it's one of those, if it's not broken, don't fix it things. I'm not aware of any tremendous groundswell that the charter is not addressing that currently in the right way.
I think it's always a discussion about, you know, whether finance committee members can participate in anything else.
Well, I understood his rationale. I mean, it's a question of whether you're sufficiently troubled that you want to bring it forth. His rationale was that a particular member, by being on both committees, could wind up getting 2 shots at voting on something.
I understand.
Should Matt come before us and explain?
We can, but we're not going to include it in the warrant, at least not tonight. So at least, I don't think so. It's not in front of us.
But he has an opportunity to come before us, and then we can add
We'd
the
like to.
special.
I think this is a very serious kind of change. This is not
Right.
a simple change.
Right.
And we're getting to a point where maybe this is something he presents to us next year, gets handled. You really ask the question, how should we set up the capital outlay committee and the finance committee? And it may be, the answer might be the way it is now,
For now.
or this, or something else. But I think it's too quick and too important to try and force this into a special agenda.
And that's why we did what we did, because we ultimately didn't feel our charge was to redesign the government for you.
Well, I understand that, and, you know, that's part of the process. We had gone to you and said, hey, one of the charges we want is we want to change this thing over here. We didn't say that to you, so, yeah. Linda?
I was just going to add that I've also heard some conversation that the Finance Committee should be elected. So it's a much bigger conversation than just whether a member of the Finance Committee can sit on capital outlay or city. They're actually pretty big substantive governmental changes, as you point out, Don.
Which is why you didn't hear anything from us, because it's a weightier issue than what
No,
we
but
would
it's
be doing.
important that we understand you took up the topic.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, and getting back to the customary articles, could I have a motion? I don't think we need to discuss that. The Article 1, 2, and then compensated balance title.
Mr. Chair, I will move that we include Article 1, Town Officers and Committees, Article 2, Report of the Town Officers and Committees, Article 65, Compensating Balance Agreement, Article 66, Tidal, Non-Tidal Rivers, and Article 67, the Herring Fisheries.
Okay, it's been moved. There's a second?
Second.
And seconded to include those customary articles in the warrant. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. At least we know we have herring fisheries in there, which is good.
Thank God.
Thank
Hopefully, has
heavens.
somebody to explain it.
I don't think everybody, yeah.
We'll see. Okay, that's it for the new business. We'll move on to Town Administrator's report.
Before I go there, is the one-liner that we gave you so far so good with you all?
It was at my table this evening, so I haven't looked at it, but it's got,
It was in the packets, but we
Okay.
also printed
Yeah,
it
yeah,
big,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
you
It
could
was
read
hard
it.
to see it.
I know.
the same format we had last year, I assume?
I believe so.
Yeah.
No.
He's not entitled to it by the charter.
I have an extra.
No, it's good. This is your worksheet, so,
Yeah, it's our
Yep.
worksheet, actually.
worksheet, yeah.
You need it.
And Charlie, I'm assuming we'll update this every week as we go forward, right?
Yes.
There's new information.
Well, you haven't voted on anything yet, so I don't
I
have
know.
to do anything.
I know, it's okay. Well, I think starting Saturday, once we have our meetings,
Yeah.
we'll start.
Oh, yeah,
Because the other thing I
absolutely.
want to point out to the board is, as part of Saturday's meeting, if one of the departments or several of the departments have an article, we're going to have them at least address that article, you know, during that meeting. So that's our time.
Yes, we
to
did
get
send an
some
email
information.
out after last week's meeting. Hopefully, everybody got it, considering our email issues, so we will remind everyone.
Okay.
In your package, you do have the last page of the budget timeline. We do have the budget hearing with the Finance Committee on the 27th. The board will continue to review the warrant articles. Hopefully by March 7th, you'll be ready to sign off on that. You will open the special town meeting warrant on the 14th, and so on and so forth. Unless somebody has specific questions.
Yeah, okay. Dan, did you have something?
Just parallel to this, I still do my sheet that has fewer columns and bigger print. I'll be bringing that Saturday as well, and it does match dollar for dollar.
Okay, I just asked the question, after this evening, are we gonna number the articles that are now in this warrant? Or-
Yes, it would, because they're not numbered at this point.
No, they're not.
Is it possible to do that just because it's gonna start getting confusing?
It is, I'm a little concerned about that, if you're gonna take any of the other ones out. I mean, right now, the only one that's coming out is, number 27.
But it still would be helpful to have them just go through and number it, because otherwise, if you can very specifically say Article 6, Article 12,
Well,
it's
Just
very,
need to know what
you know
revision of articles.
what you're looking
Yeah, see,
at,
that,
so I think that we had last week to have them numbered.
well, just a question.
Go ahead.
Tonight, we voted to include the articles we have in front of us.
Yep.
If next week or this weekend, we're gonna decide whether we want to support them. So I don't think there's gonna be a lot of number changing unless something happens that is a big driver. We're gonna just say we like it or we don't, we support it or we don't.
we'll
So I
add
think-
the numbers.
I think it's safer.
Yeah, let's add numbers,
Okay.
please. And then what we could do is we could, if we have to cross them out or whatever, or, omit something, we just put a line through it at the time being, and in a couple weeks, we can then renumber things.
Yeah, we can also take one from the
As long as
bottom
people
and
don't
put it
get
in
a
the
sign
top.
made up to say, vote no on number something, because then they'll be in trouble. Or vote yes on something, whatever, so.
Mr.
Okay,
Chair?
yeah.
Charlene, thank you for getting the budget detail on the departments to us.
Okay, Cape
I
Light
just
Comp,
said send them. There was Ann and Sandy, mainly Sandy, who pulled everything together, so that was, she did a
okay,
great job.
so you're set with which is item 2 under Town Administrator's Report, the upcoming dates on budget and warrant timeline.
Yep.
Right, I mean, the most important thing is we're meeting on Saturday to get this whole thing rolling here.
Yes.
Okay, Cape Light Compact
We
letter.
will be having lunch for the two boards,
Okay, we will start at 8 o'clock in the
and we
morning.
will be
We're
starting
going
at 8.
till
We do not,
like
we
4:30
will
or
not be
5
doing
o'clock.
coffee and donuts, so if you want to bring your own coffee or whatever, by all means.
Okay. Dana will run the afternoon session, I'll run the morning session. I'll just take the whip and hand it to him at noontime or something or whatever. So it is a joint meeting, so we'll do it that way. Okay, we do have to, my intent, by the way, a little bit different than previous years, I'm gonna ask departments if they have an article or articles to talk first about those articles. I'm gonna push them for like a minute or less, because they wanna get onto their budget. But in the past, we've often been, we don't, we don't really have time to do the articles, so we, give it short shrift, if you will. So I'm gonna ask to do the articles first. So, Charlene, what you might do, what you should do, along with the schedule, if you could have them put at least the article numbers or titles for each department as we get to them. You know what I mean? That way, when we have the schedule, we can make sure we cover the appropriate articles. So for instance, highway, when they have their trucks and, road maintenance and all that. Okay?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Okay, we have a letter from Cape Light Compact. I think everybody knows that this board was not thrilled with the way they were trying to make changes. I think this board thought they were very significant changes as part of the Cape Light Compact. We sent a letter expressing our concerns, and we got a letter back. I think the letter back basically said, well, thank you for the letter, but we're going to keep doing what we're doing, is what I read.
Well,
Validated my concerns.
Yes,
It
yes.
validated my
Oh,
concerns.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think, I agree, because if you ask the board that makes the decisions whether they want to vote on it or not, or get direction from somebody else, what do you think they're going to say?
Right.
So I think that maybe now, since they don't have the money, it might be time to ask them to get back to the
Well,
towns.
Cape Light Compact has
That's
the
Cape
money.
Light
Yeah,
Compact,
yeah,
it's
you know.
different,
Oh,
that's
that's
different
true.
than
That's true.
A
CVAC.
lot of money.
Yeah, that's true. That's
That's an
true.
ongoing entity, and
Yeah, it's true.
I think at the moment, you know.
Leave it alone?
What?
Leave it alone?
Well, no, but, you know, they made their changes, right? Which probably are the most substantive changes they've made in, I don't know, 5 or 10 years, whatever. So you're probably not gonna see that again. But maybe on our side, we should just get a representative in here more often and understand what's going on there and give our feedback as to what we think. And maybe, you know, if there's an important topic, we just say, you know what, we're taking a vote to tell you how to vote. We're taking a vote to tell you how to vote, thank you.
Now that they've changed their budget, I think that it would be good for us to understand what they're going to be doing and not doing as a result of those budget changes.
But I think
So
you're
that-
mixing up
CVAC.
That's
CVAC and
CVAC.
Cape Light Compact, they're two
It's true,
different entities.
CVAC, that's right.
Yeah. CVAC, I absolutely agree, because we heard tonight they're moving to White's Path or something,
And they're totally different, yeah.
and at some point, we have to get our administrative work, I'll just call it that, associated with the solar field, taken care of. And that's the, you know, the credits and all that, based on the metering.
I just want to make sure that it doesn't, whatever happens at CVIC, that we don't get surprised by something isn't being done and then we're playing catch-up and,
Yep. Michael?
Yeah, I'd like to actually request that they come before us, because my understanding is Barnstable didn't vote because they weren't asked. And Charlie McLaughlin said that he never intended on asking Barnstable to Liz Argo. So I'd like to get them back before us anyway to find out the vote and exactly what Linda just asked, so,
Okay, so you think the topic is, how does CVAC go forward? I
Yes.
mean, is that the topic?
yeah, and it doesn't have to be anytime soon, but.
No, but
But, you know, it's possible on the Cape Light Compact, not CVAC, that we bring the topic up at the Selectmen's monthly breakfast kind of thing.
it'd be a
And-
great topic, quite frankly.
Right?
It's just not televised or anything, but it'd be a good topic, just for, because most of the folks there are in it some way or another, you know?
And bring it, and everybody there can bring it back to their,
Yep.
to their town, so.
Yep.
Maybe it would be a good idea to take your original letter to them and modify it a little bit, or put a cover note on it, and we can have it distributed to the whole group.
Okay. All right.
So are we having CVAC in, or are you gonna have,
I would like to have CVAC in at
Okay.
some point in time and tell us how they're gonna go forward and what it means to the town of Harwich, quite frankly. I don't care what it means to Eastham. Well, I guess I do, but I don't. You know what I mean? I wanna know how it affects us directly and what we have to do to try and compensate for what they're not gonna do. Okay, anything else on that topic? Anything else, Charlene?
I do not.
Okay. Angelo?
No?
Linda? Janelle?
No.
No.
Michael? Okay, just remind everybody, I think you all got a letter about reading Dr. Seuss stuff at the elementary school next week.
I'm already signed up.
Oh, did you?
My
Good.
hour?
Good. The deadline, I think, is sometime the 24th, which is Wednesday, I believe. So I'm gonna make sure tomorrow I get that over, but, if you're so inclined, it's a good event, so the kids get a kick out of it, so. If you can do that, that'd be great. Okay, and just remind you all, we're gonna meet on Saturday. It'll be here, by the way, not the community
Yep,
center. It's
right here.
We'll make provisions to fit the finance committee up here somehow, some way.
There's only 7 of you now? Okay. I think what we're gonna do is Selectmen and Finance here, and then Chris, I, and Andy will be
Whatever.
kind of by ourselves at another
We're getting
table.
out, moving around. I mean, it's an all-day event. It's, you know, bring your pillow. Yeah, hopefully we'll keep it moving, and hopefully it'll be, it's a little lively, but we'll see. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.